The nurse asked twice if anyone was coming. I told her no. I signed the consent forms myself, right hand shaking, left arm already prepped for the IV. The surgery was scheduled for early morning. Life-altering, the surgeon had said during the consult. Not optional. Not something you reschedule. I'd sent the details to the family group chat weeks earlier. Date, time, hospital name, parking instructions. Mom had reacted with a heart emoji. Dad wrote, "We'll be there." Brother didn't respond, but that wasn't unusual. The morning of, my phone stayed silent. I signed my own discharge forms alone. When I woke up in recovery, the chair beside the bed was empty. A volunteer offered me juice. The surgeon stopped by, reviewed post-op instructions, asked if someone was picking me up. I lied and said yes. I took a rideshare home, still groggy, clutching a folder of wound care printouts. The first message arrived that evening. One voicemail mentioned his big break. Brother had a concert. Not just any performance, apparently. A showcase. Career-defining, Mom said in a voice note. Scouts in attendance. The kind of opportunity that doesn't come twice. She was breathy with excitement. The kind she never quite mustered for my college acceptance or my promotion, or the years I spent holding the family together while he chased stages. Dad's text was shorter. You understand, right? This is huge for him. I opened the group chat. The timestamps told the story. While I was in pre-op, they were posting photos from the venue. While I was under anesthesia, Brother was on stage, backlit and beaming. While I waited in recovery, they were at the after-party, toasting his future. Receipt. The hospital admission record logged my arrival, my sole emergency contact, a friend, not family, and the time I was discharged into my own care. The screenshots sat in my camera roll like evidence. I didn't send them. I didn't argue. I just scrolled, feeling something harden in my chest that had been soft my entire life. They'd made a choice. They'd always made a choice. But I held one piece of paper they'd forgotten about. The surgeon used the word irreversible 3 times. Once during the consult, twice in the follow-up appointment I attended alone, neck still stiff, instructions barely processed because no one was there to help me remember. The condition wasn't cosmetic. It wasn't minor. Left untreated, it would have compounded. Chronic pain, loss of function, a narrowing of the life I'd been trying to build. I'd told them that. I'd used those words in the group chat. I'd even forwarded the medical summary, redacted but clear. Mom's text said I was overreacting. She didn't say it meanly. She never did. Her cruelty was always wrapped in soft language, in, you know how important this is, in, don't make this about you. I'd spent years translating her tone, learning that my emergencies were interruptions and his milestones were mandatory. Brother didn't text at all. He didn't ask how it went. Didn't ask if I was okay. Brother's Instagram story had tens of thousands of likes. I watched it from my couch, heating pad pressed to my side, prescriptions lined up on the coffee table. He was radiant. The comments were full of fire emojis and praise. Someone called him a star. He reposted it. The contrast sat in my phone like a split screen. My medical portal, surgery notes, billing codes, a follow-up scheduler reminding me I'd need help for the next few weeks. His social media, champagne flutes, stage lights, the family clustered around him like he'd won an award. Reframe, their celebration wasn't in spite of my crisis. It was instead of it. I healed slowly. Pain managed, function preserved. But something else had shifted. I started seeing the pattern not as isolated incidents, but as a decades-long architecture. The family had built itself around him. I was the margin note. A week passed. Then another. No one checked in. They called a week later asking if I'd signed the paperwork. The lawyer's letter was addressed only to me. It arrived in a cream envelope, embossed return address, the kind of formality that makes you sit down before you open it. I almost missed it. I'd been moving carefully, still sore, still alone, sorting through mail I'd let pile up during recovery. Inside was a cover letter and a referral to an estate attorney. My grandmother had passed months earlier. I'd known that. I'd gone to the service. What I hadn't known was that she'd named me in her will. Not as a beneficiary alongside everyone else, as the executor. Grandma had made her choice years ago. The attorney's office was downtown, all polished wood and soft lighting. The woman across the desk wore reading glasses and spoke in the calm, measured tone of someone who delivers life-changing news daily. She walked me through the document. A trust, established years before Grandma's death, designed to pass assets to her grandchildren. Brother's name was in it. Mine was too. But only one of us had signing authority. I was the only one with signing authority. Receipt. The trust deed was dated and notarized, filed with the county, completely legal. My name appeared in 2 places, once as a beneficiary, once as the sole trustee with discretionary power over distributions. The lawyer explained it carefully. Grandma had watched us grow up. She'd seen the dynamics. She'd made an intentional choice about who should control the funds. I could distribute them as I saw fit. I could delay. I could attach conditions. Or I could redirect them entirely if I believed the original beneficiaries weren't suited to receive them. The weight of it settled slowly. Reframe. I hadn't been forgotten. I'd been trusted. The attorney asked if I had any initial questions. I asked about timelines. She said the trust required action within a short window once the executor accepted the role. If I did nothing, the default distribution would trigger. If I wanted control, I needed to file an acceptance of appointment form. I signed it that afternoon. The family didn't know yet. They didn't know Grandma had left anything beyond sentimental items. They certainly didn't know I was the gatekeeper. Cost. I drove home with the folder on my passenger seat, feeling the full gravity of the choice ahead. I had 72 hours to decide where it all went. Every family photo had him in the center. I hadn't noticed it until I started looking. Holiday cards, framed prints in Mom's hallway, the collage Dad kept in his office. Brother front and center smiling, the rest of us angled around him like satellites. Even in pictures from my own graduation, he was the focal point. The camera loved him, sure. But so did they. My graduation was the same day as his recital. Guess which one we attended? I'd told myself for years that it wasn't favoritism, just logistics. Scheduling conflicts. Coincidence. But the pattern was too consistent. My college acceptance dinner was cut short because he needed a ride to rehearsal. My promotion was acknowledged with a text. His EP release got a family party. When I bought my first place, Mom said congratulations. When he got a gig, she cried with pride. The trust letter in my bag felt like a counter-narrative. Grandma had seen it. She'd never said anything out loud, never confronted them, but she'd acted. Dad's voice had an edge I'd heard my whole life. He called midweek. No preamble. Your grandmother's attorney reached out. Said you're handling the estate. Didn't know she left anything significant. His tone was casual, probing. Probably some savings bonds, right? You'll split it with your brother? I didn't answer the question. I said I was still reviewing everything. Well, don't take too long. He's got some opportunities coming up. Could use the support. There it was. Not we could use it. Not you both deserve it. Mom followed up the next day with a forwarded link. An investment brother wanted to make. A studio package. Booking fees for a tour. She didn't ask if I needed anything. Didn't mention the surgery. Just, when you get access to Grandma's funds, keep this in mind. Receipt. The text thread sat in my phone like an exhibit. Timestamps, phrasing, assumptions. No one asked how I was. They asked what I'd give him. The lawyer had been clear. The trust was discretionary. I wasn't obligated to distribute anything to anyone. Grandma had written the terms broadly. To support my grandchildren in ways that honor character, responsibility, and care. Reframe. I'd spent my whole life being the responsible one, the one who showed up, the one who didn't need attention. And it had made me invisible. Brother's needs were loud. Mine were quiet. So his got met. The family kept texting. Gentle at first, then firmer. Dad mentioned tax implications. Mom sent another link. Brother finally messaged directly. Hey, heard your executor. That's cool. Let me know when we can talk distributions. Not thank you for taking this on. Not in how are you feeling. Just logistics. Just his share. Cost? I stopped responding. Let the messages pile up. Each one sharpened my clarity. So I scheduled a meeting with the estate lawyer and made one request. The charity sent a confirmation letter within hours. I'd chosen carefully. An organization that provided medical support to people without family resources, people who sat alone in recovery rooms, people whose emergencies were met with silence. The paperwork was simple. The lawyer had walked me through it, confirmed my authority, confirmed the irrevocability clause in the trust meant that once funds were distributed, they couldn't be clawed back. I signed the transfer documents in her office. She witnessed, notarized, filed. By the time I got home, the email was waiting. Formal acknowledgement, donation received. A second email from the charity's director, effusive with gratitude. A third from the bank, confirming the account had been emptied and closed. I forwarded it to the family group chat without a caption. The messages came slowly at first. Confusion. What is this? From Dad. Is this a mistake? From Mom. Then silence. Then the calls started. Brother called dozens of times in one evening. I didn't pick up. I watched the screen light up, buzz, go dark. Watched the voicemails stack. The text shifted from confusion to panic to anger. What did you do? You can't do this. Call me back right now. Dad's message was colder. We need to talk. This is family money. You don't get to make this decision alone. Reframe, but I did. Grandma had made sure of it. Receipt. The donation receipt was official, signed by the charity's executive director, itemized and logged. The transfer confirmation from the bank showed the trust account balance at zero. Funds moved in full, irrevocable per the trust terms. A redacted screenshot of the final ledger sat in my files, time-stamped, legal, permanent. The trust was gone. Every dollar of it. Moved entirely out of the family, into the hands of strangers who would use it the way I wished my family had used their presence, to show up for someone in need. Move. I'd done the one thing they never expected. I'd acted. Mom tried a different angle. A voice note, shaky, hurt. Honey, I don't understand. This was for you and your brother. Grandma wanted you both to have security. You've made a terrible mistake. We can fix this. Just call the charity back. I typed a reply. Didn't send it. Deleted it. Let the silence sit. The lawyer had been explicit. No takebacks. No reversals. The trust language was airtight. I had full discretion. The family had no legal standing to challenge it. They weren't beneficiaries with guaranteed shares. They were nothing in this equation. Brother's messages turned desperate. Do you know what you just cost me? Do you have any idea what I had lined up? You're selfish. You've always been selfish. Threat. He'd never called me selfish before. He'd never had to. I'd always given him everything. The group chat exploded. Aunts, uncles, cousins I barely spoke to. All of them suddenly invested in Grandma's estate. In fairness, in what I owed the family. The word owed appeared again and again. Cost. I muted the chat. Silenced the calls. Sat in my quiet apartment, still healing, still alone, and felt the enormity of what I'd just burned down. Mom's text arrived at midnight. We're coming over. Don't lock the door. Dad mentioned lawyers. I mentioned timestamps. They showed up the next morning. Didn't knock, just used the spare key I'd forgotten Mom had. I was still in pajamas, coffee half made when I heard the door open. No boundaries. There never had been. Mom's face was blotchy. Dad looked grim. Brother came in last, arms folded, jaw tight. We need to fix this, Dad said. No hello, no preamble. I asked what they thought needed fixing. You gave away his future. Mom's voice cracked. That money was supposed to help him. Grandma would have wanted... I stopped her. Asked if she remembered what Grandma said at my college graduation. She blinked. Didn't answer. I told her. Grandma had pulled me aside and said, "You're the one who'll be okay. You don't need anyone to carry you." Reframe, I'd thought it was a compliment. It was a diagnosis. Brother showed up at my door. I didn't open it. Actually, I did once. That first visit. But when he started yelling, when he called me vindictive and cruel and jealous, I asked him to name the last time he'd asked how I was. He stared, couldn't answer. I closed the door. When he came back the next day, I didn't respond. He pounded, shouted through the mail slot, left. My neighbor, an older woman who'd brought me soup during recovery, witnessed it. Knocked later to ask if I was safe. I said yes. She said she'd keep an ear out. That quiet solidarity meant more than any family text ever had. An aunt I hadn't seen in years called me selfish. The flying monkeys came in waves. Relatives I'd barely spoken to suddenly had opinions on my character, my choices, my obligations. One uncle said I was spiteful. A cousin said I'd regret this. The aunt, Dad's sister, left a voicemail calling me cruel and saying Grandma would be ashamed. I kept them all. Saved every message, every voicemail, every text. Receipt, the recordings were clear. Threats, accusations, a few that edged close to harassment. My neighbor's statement, offered freely, corroborated the door-pounding incident. Move. I documented everything. Started a folder, digital and physical. Logged dates, times, contact attempts. I didn't engage. Didn't defend. Just collected evidence. The lawyer had warned me this might happen. Family plus money equals volatility. She'd advised me to keep records, stay calm, and refer any legal threats directly to her office. Brother tried another angle. Sent a long email. Apologetic at first. He was sorry for yelling. Sorry for the distance. He knew we hadn't been close. But this wasn't about us. This was about Grandma's wishes. Surely I could see that the trust was meant to support both of us. Surely I didn't mean to destroy his plans. He'd be willing to share if I could reverse it. We could split it. I could take the larger portion even. Just undo the donation. I read it twice. Felt the manipulation in every line. Didn't reply. Dad's follow-up was blunt. Our attorney says you breached fiduciary duty. You'll be hearing from him. Cost. The family fractured along lines I hadn't anticipated. Some believed I was right. A younger cousin reached out privately. Said she'd always seen the favoritism. Said she was proud of me. An older aunt, Mom's sister, stopped speaking to me entirely. The isolation was real. Holidays were coming. Invitations evaporated. The group chat I'd muted was eventually replaced by a new one, without me. Threat. I'd known there would be fallout. I hadn't known it would feel like excommunication. But I also hadn't known how much lighter I'd feel. No more phones buzzing with demands. No more expectations I could never meet. No more bending myself around someone else's shine. Then my lawyer sent me a single-line email with an attachment. The word appeared several times in the legal memo. Irrevocable. My attorney had drafted a formal opinion, preemptive and thorough. She'd anticipated the family's legal threat and responded before they'd even filed. The memo walked through the trust language, my appointment as sole trustee, the discretionary authority Grandma had embedded in the terms, and the finality of the distribution. Receipt. The opinion cited case law, statute, and the trust's own clauses. It was airtight. She explained it over the phone. They can hire anyone they want. No court will reverse a lawful discretionary distribution made by a properly appointed trustee. You acted within your authority. The charity has clean hands. The funds are gone. I asked if they could sue me personally. They can try. They won't win. And if they do file, we'll counter for harassment and legal fees. Move. I authorized her to send a cease and desist to the family. Formal, legal, non-negotiable. Any further contact from them or their representatives regarding the trust would be considered harassment. She sent it that afternoon. I blocked every number that shared my last name. Not out of spite. Out of preservation. Every message was a hook trying to pull me back into a role I'd outgrown. The invisible one. The giver. The one who absorbed their needs and never stated her own. Brother's lawyer never called back after reading the trust terms. I know because my attorney followed up. Professional courtesy. She'd received a letter from a local firm, vague and blustering, alleging misconduct and demanding an accounting. She replied with the trust deed, the memo, and a polite invitation to pursue litigation if they felt confident. Silence. Reframe. Turned out their case was as empty as the trust account. The cease and desist worked. The calls stopped. The emails stopped. The family went quiet, not out of respect but out of defeat. I sat with that quiet for days, tested it, waited for guilt to swallow me. It didn't. Cost. I'd severed the family ties, but they'd been frayed for years. I hadn't cut something healthy. I'd released something rotted. Threat. A part of me still worried. Worried they'd find another angle. Worried I'd run into them somewhere and have to face the rawness again. Worried I'd second-guess myself in a weak moment. But the law was clear. The lawyer was clear. And somewhere inside, under all the years of conditioning, I was clear too. The charity called to say they'd chosen the first recipients. Brother's investment opportunity evaporated within a month. I didn't hear it from him. I heard it through the grapevine. The cousin who still spoke to me. The one who'd watched the family dynamics with the same quiet disbelief I had. Apparently, the big studio package, the tour, the investor meetings, all of it had hinged on capital Brother didn't have. Without the trust, the deals fell apart. He tried to pivot, tried to crowdfund. The traction wasn't there. His social media went quiet for a while. Then sporadic, then bitter. The family group chat dissolved into accusations. I wasn't in it anymore, but screenshots found their way to me. Mom blaming Dad for not stepping in. Dad blaming Brother for counting on money that wasn't his. Brother blaming me for ruining his life. Aunts and uncles picking sides. The implosion was total. Reframe, I hadn't destroyed the family. I'd just stopped holding it together. A stranger sent a thank you card with a photo. It arrived in my mailbox, forwarded through the charity. A woman, mid-30s, standing outside a clinic. The note was handwritten. She'd needed a surgery she couldn't afford. No family support. She'd been on a waiting list for months. The charity's grant, funded by my donation, had covered it. She was recovering. She was okay. She thanked a person she'd never met for seeing her. Receipt. I kept the card on my counter for weeks. Looked at it every morning. Proof that the money had done what I'd hoped. It had shown up. The charity sent a report a few weeks later. An accounting of how the funds were being allocated. Medical grants, support services, a pilot program for people recovering alone. My grandmother's money, which would have gone towards studio time and tour buses, was now paying for surgeries and post-op care and the kind of dignity I'd wanted and didn't get. Minor receipt. I also saw the fallout in other forms. A mutual friend mentioned Brother had moved back in with my parents. Another said he'd taken a day job, something stable, something he'd always said was beneath him. I didn't gloat. Didn't feel vindicated in the way I'd imagined. Move. I just watched from a distance, knowing I'd made a choice and the consequences were unfolding exactly as they should. The family stopped trying to contact me. Holidays came and went. No invitations. No olive branches. I spent them with friends, with the neighbor who'd checked on me, with people who'd earned a place at my table. Cost, there was grief. Real grief. Not for the family as it was, but for the family I'd wanted it to be. The version where they showed up, where my surgery mattered, where I wasn't the margin note. That family never existed. Letting go of the fantasy hurt more than losing the reality. I didn't feel victory. I felt something quieter. Therapy taught me the difference between revenge and self-respect. I started going a few months after the dust settled. Needed help processing the weight of it all, the isolation and the relief and the guilt that ebbed and flowed. My therapist asked me once if I'd donated the money to punish my brother or to honor something in myself. I thought about it. Said both, maybe. But mostly the latter. She nodded. Said that was okay? Said boundaries aren't clean. They're not noble gestures. They're just lines we draw when we finally believe we deserve them. I'd spent my entire life watching my family choose my brother. Every time I told myself it wasn't personal. It was just his need, his talent, his moment. But need isn't the same as worth. And talent doesn't justify neglect. Reframe. The surgery wasn't the breaking point. It was just the day I stopped pretending it didn't hurt. I've built a life with people who show up. My circle is smaller now. Intentional. The neighbor who brought soup became a friend. The cousin who reached out became someone I actually talked to. I joined a support group for people recovering from family estrangement. Turns out there are a lot of us. Turns out we're not broken. We're just done. I got a message a while back from brother. Not an apology. Just a line. Do you ever think about what you did? I didn't respond. But I did think about it. Move. I thought about the choice I made, the inheritance I gave away, the family I walked away from. And I thought about the woman in the photo, standing outside the clinic, recovering, seen. I made peace with it. The scar from surgery healed. The lesson didn't. I still have the trust documents in a folder. I still have the thank you card on my counter. I don't look at them often. I don't need to. They're just proof that I was here, that I mattered, that I made a choice that honored the person my grandmother saw in me. Cost. There are moments I wonder what it would have been like if they'd just come to the hospital. If they'd sat in that chair. If they'd asked if I was okay. Maybe none of this would have happened. Maybe I would have distributed the money exactly as they wanted, but they didn't. And I didn't. And I'm okay with that. If you've ever been the empty chair, you're not alone. Drop your story below. I chose the boundary. I chose myself. And I'd do it again.